So now that we have Blender open, make sure that you have Octane installed and working correctly. If you're a follower of this channel, you know that I have created past videos on how to install the free version of Blender Octane. So please look that up and come back here if you don't have that set up. Let's start bringing the Gaussian Splat into the scene. So you can't start with no object. You need to have some geometric object in the scene for you to apply a Gaussian Splat. So if I just bring in an empty, for example, it would not work. We don't have the correct options if we use an empty. So let's bring in the sphere again, or you can use a plane. I believe a cube is actually easier to select. So let's just go with that. And now in the data properties, we can scroll down and we see Octane mesh properties. And this is where we're going to set up the Gaussian Splat. But before we do that, we need to assign the Gaussian Splat to our materials. And we'll go to the shader editor here. We don't need universal materials at this point. Let me turn off the information panel. We're going to add in an Octane geometry and scroll all the way to the top where you see Gaussian Splat. Click that here. And to make it show up as a geometry, you have to put it into the displacement input node. Now we will select our Gaussian Splat by selecting 30,000 PLY file. And once we do that, now we can go to the data properties and select this material with the Gaussian Splat node. And that's all we need to do to get it to work. Let's turn on Blender Octane. And here's our splat. I'm going to turn off the scene light to demonstrate that the Gaussian Splat itself is illuminated. And we're just going to disconnect this. So you see the Gaussian Splat has all baked in information. No need for lighting. Now you might be saying, okay, well, how do I make it affect the lighting? And you can do that by going to the Gaussian Splat node, and we can play with shadow strength. But before we do that, I want to clean up the scene. I'm going to show you how to crop down the Gaussian Splat down to the truck. To do that, we're going to change clipping mode to box, and we're going to define that box using the clipping bound transform. So click the plus sign. Right now, the scale is pretty small, so we're going to increase that. I'm going to use 20. Probably don't need the vertical so much. You can also raise it a little bit so you don't get that ground Gaussians. So this is a quick way to just clean it up. But if you really want more control over it, you really need to go to Lichtfeld Studio and control the Gaussian Splat points, and you can delete it inside that program. So now I have no light in my scene, and I want the shadows to be affected by a light source. So what we need to do is turn up the shadow strength. And right now everything goes dark. So let's do that and add in a light source. And we'll add a directional light. The directional light is affecting the object. I want some like bounce light effect. I might want to turn down the shadow strength so the backside is illuminated instead of completely black. And that's it for Gaussian Splats. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Thank you.